So it's my pleasure. I should introduce myself first. My name's Geraint Wiggins. I'm very happy to be chairing this 8:30 in the morning in York session, 5:30 in Melbourne session. Our first speaker today is one of a very large number of authors on this paper. I'm not going to read them all. This is Andrew Danso. And Andrew, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And this is a presentation about my systematic review and meta-analysis regards personalized interactive music systems for physical activity and exercise. And if you're interested in accessing parts of the review, you can use the QR code. This has been submitted for peer review, and I'll give you an opportunity at the end to have a look into that. Okay, so the basis for the review. So physical activity, it's defined by the WHO as any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles requiring energy expenditure. 1 in 4 adults, they fail to meet global physical activity guidelines, while 80% of adolescents are deemed insufficiently active. And this, of course, leads to health risks, including higher mortality rates, chronic disease rates, and an increase in economic burden. This is resulting in an estimated global cost of 300 billion by 2030 based on those physical activity estimates. So it's a huge problem. Yet the use of music as a tool to enhance motivation and endurance in physical activity has gained significant attention over the recent years. So Terry's meta-analysis on the left here highlighted the use of music to boost physical performance, decrease perceived exertion, and enhance physiological efficiency. And similarly, Clark's recent meta-analysis just on the right here found that music listening interventions can lead to small increases in physical activity in older adults, which leads me to the basis of the review. So the increased accessibility and use of smartphones and smart devices has started this rising development and adoption of what's called as personal interactive music systems, PIMS for short. And these systems, they leverage software and sensors to tailor music to the specifics of a user's exercise routine, adjusting tempo, style, and intensity to match the user's pace, intensity, and duration of activity. So on this screen here, you can see a few of the PIMS, the interactive music systems that have came about in the review. There's quite a few music recommendation systems in the top left. And we've got these 3 systems here, D-Jogger, Music Assisted Run Trainer, and Mobeat. And they play music and give musical feedback based on someone's physical activity. A system in the middle here is called Jimin. And I'm going to give you an example of what Jimin looks like now. There we go. What a fantastic commercial. I always feel so good watching him struggle to move those pedals. Okay. However, little is known about the effective components of these systems in physical activity contexts. So our core question of the review is how effective are these systems at increasing physical activity and reducing sedentary behaviors? So our core objective was to perform a separate random effects meta-analyses and narrative synthesis across 4 outcomes of interest. They are physical activity level, that's the duration of one's physical activity, physical exertion, the rate of perceived exertion and affect. There was 18 studies just at the bottom here that were included in the review, and 6 were included in the meta-analyses. Our risk of bias assessment showed only 1 study being rated for a low risk of bias. Just at the top here, you can see the vast majority of studies were rated for a high risk of bias, and they were proof of concept study designs. There was only 1 randomized experimental design. So the data quality of the studies is very suspect here. We have to interpret it with caution. That being said, let's get straight into the results. So this first result here is a cluster in physical activity level. That's the duration of physical activity. So what effect do these systems have on someone's physical activity level? So we've got a medium effect size at the bottom here and a significant result of the systems increasing overall physical activity level, increasing someone's duration of physical activity. This cluster is made up of 3 different outcome measures. You've got audio playlists in a rhythmic auditory stimulation, RAS, and non-rhythmic auditory stimulation, comparator. That cluster was made up of elderly patients. They were having to sync their walking movements to rhythmic playlists. So this was very effective at getting elderly people to walk for longer durations. Then we have 2 other clusters here, a workout duration measure and a training compliance measure. Okay, our next cluster is in rate of perceived exertion. So how tired do you feel while using these systems? So we have a close to a large effect size, but a non-significant result. So it's close to significance, but it's not quite there. So it's not clear whether or not these systems actually do anything for someone's feeling of tiredness, for someone's rate of perceived exertion. All the outcome measures here were made up of self-ratings in perceived exertion. Our next cluster is in affect, so emotions, affective arousal. The effect size here is absolutely massive, and there's a significant result heavily in favor of these systems, increasing overall affective arousal, increasing positive emotions during physical activity. This cluster is made up of outcome measures in fun and enjoyment ratings, a feeling scale and a felt arousal scale, and a mood during workout measure. Finally, we have actual physical exertion. There's almost a large effect size, but a non-statistically significant result here for the systems doing anything with regards to physical exertion. They don't really seem to have any effect. This cluster is made up of a stride and pace monitoring outcome and then 2 heart rate measurements. Okay, so we've got overall kind of a mixed picture here with regards to their effects across these different outcomes of interest. Narratively, we found that there was a lot of participants reporting more engaging and enjoyable exercise experiences, especially in older populations. And this is specifically in line with increasing their synchronizations. They tend to enjoy the exercise experience more as they increased their synchronizations to the music. There's an interesting study here just on the right. It's the little green circle by Ren and colleagues. This is a study in Asia, and they developed a little smart cushion for office workers. Now, this was purely qualitative data, so we couldn't include it in the meta-analysis. This smart cushion would trigger sound to get people to move more. And they found that this kind of continuous music was an appropriate motivator to shift posture. And they associated this with the reduction of sedentary behavior. So this is a potentially positive result. But unfortunately, we couldn't include this in the meta-analysis because there was no quantitative data. So interpret with caution.